Hi, I'm David, and today I'm going to walk you through the Nautilus 360 collaborative appraisal platform. So here I am logging in as a priority user on the system, and I'm going to set up an appraisal nice and quickly. So you can see up here the buttons that I've got: prepare, my 360 overview and settings. That's different dependent on whether or not you're a priority user, leadership user, or user. As a priority user, I can see everything, I can create appraisals, I can be appraised as well. And we're going to create an appraisal. So this is going to be me, and on the system here, I'm Jules Verne. So if I come down to here, that's me, and I'm going to be appraising and advising INPI, and there we go. So we can set that one up. We can see the appraisals being created. If we can click on here, we can now set those objectives. So at this point, I will be meeting with INPI and having a conversation so we can do this together. So as we click, we're going to choose 3 objectives. So in here, I'm going to choose the type of objectives, and we have a default bank which we can edit and add to on the system, and I'll show you that shortly. But what we've put into the system are the typical areas that schools tend to focus on. So teaching and learning, the practice in the classroom, leadership, subject or aspect, or senior, wider contribution, developing self, pupil outcomes. So we could be looking at progress indicators and so on. So for this one, I'm going to start with teaching and learning, and in here then we've got some sub areas. So I'm going to select assessment, and let's have AFL, which is the priority in my school. So I'll just edit that one. So that's the first one: agreed, discussed, and then added. I'm going to add a second objective, which is now going to be leadership. So we're going to select strategic leadership, and I'm going to put this one in history. So that's INPI's responsibility. That adds the second one, so we'll agree and set that one. And then for the third one, developing self. So typically this tends to be the area, and in here we may put send. I think maybe INPI's thinking they want to develop their expertise and skill set in that area. So those are the 3 areas that we've selected. And now we can move across to my 360s, and we can just add some detail to that. So still having that conversation and meeting with INPI, we can now go to the to-do list. So it's been created, but it's not live yet. And here, wherever we see the folder icon, we can now click into this and start to add to it. So whether or not it's me or whether or not it's INPI that's logging in and adding to and contributing and evidencing themselves. So those are the 3 areas that we looked at. And I'm just going to take this one as an example. So the leadership one that we'd decided on. And you can see here these statements, which are the outcomes for the end of the year. We can work towards those, but you can edit and change those yourselves as well as the colour schemes if you choose to do. We've chosen the ones that typically you would find in school. So in here, the thing that we would want to be adding to this is the success criteria. So in here, we want to be able to articulate and define some of the indicators, some of the things we could be working towards. So that's there for you to be able to populate together in that initial discussion. You'll see down here as well, there's also boxes that we can populate as we progress through the year. Wherever it's orange, I can now contribute and add to this document. So I can add advisor summaries for each individual objective and next steps. Wherever it's grayed out because that's going to be where INPI adds their contribution. And that's for each target. As we go down to the summary, the same applies. Wherever it's orange, I can then put the summary in as well as the next step. So I can add to that and populate to INPI's file and folder as we progress through the year. And I'm going to log back in as INPI so you can see what they see, and then you can take a little look at how they can contribute and add to their portfolio as they progress through the year. So INPI is a teacher, INPI is a user, if you like. A priority user can see everything going into the system and has a complete overview. A leadership user can appraise and be appraised, and a user can be appraised. So click into here. And as IMPI again, what we're going to do then is look to be able to find opportunities to be able to kind of add to this, so this aligns nicely with the workload throughout the year. So for example, in here where we've got the leadership, we talked here really about opportunities to be able to add files such as action plans or test outcomes or staff meeting notes or any minutes or anything that I want to add to the system to be able to show Jules Verne, my advisor, exactly what I've been doing. So as we progress through the year, as we get some leadership management time, as we do some work all related to our leadership, we can add those things as we move through the year to evidence. So we're not having that pressure point at the end of the year. And it's aligned nicely with our workload. We can add images and commendations. So let's take a little look at a commendation. We really like the idea of being able to acknowledge the best practice in school and to create a culture where teachers are able to give each other commendations. So every time they pop into a lesson, every time they do a book study and they see something that's really good, they want to give that recognition. They can offer and give a commendation to their colleague. Okay, so let's take a look at those commendations. So as I'm in the classroom doing a lesson visit or a drop-in, or it could be a book study or a survey or anything else, here I'm in IMPI's classroom and I'm just acknowledging some really good practice here, so I can see that this is highly effective, what I'm seeing. A little bit of commentary in here, so you can see there it's really positive, some really good practice. I now want to offer that to IMPI as a commendation. So for me as a teacher and for your team, they can add and give each other those commendations. And as we put those into the system, I'm now going to show you how we can use that. Back in the system, we've been given a commendation, but how can we use it to evidence a classroom practice? So in here, as we click on the commendation, I'm just going to key in the visit. And here you can see that's the one about engagement. I'm going to select that one and assign that one, and then that adds that to the portfolio. So we're adding that to evidence and to really show some good practice in school. So for me as IMPI, I can do that as I go through the year. I can add those files, those plans, those outcomes, whatever it may be, to evidence and to be able to build this as we go through the year. Those areas for me are grayed out, but this one's not, so I can add a summary as well, either mid-year potentially, and start to build that up, or as we progress through the year, and in here as well, a staff member summary. I'm logged now back in as IMPI's advisor, Jules Verne, and in progress we can see the one that we've been working on in here, and you can see all of those things that have been added, as well as those commendations too. Down at the bottom, once everything is populated and completed, then we can click the complete button, and that will mean that in here it will move from the in progress across to the complete area. So let's take a little look at a report in here. Let's take a little look at Ned's report, and as we download the PDF, you'll see it's really thorough. It gives us the overview first of the overall outcomes, so we can see how the year went. It gives us a really thorough report, which again is being populated across and through the year. Then we can go into each individual targets and look at those outcomes, the evidence, the summary and the next steps. So a really nice thorough report for governors, but more importantly for that teacher to be able to take away, and we've got that nice archive building up here in the complete area. A priority user can oversee everything. So if we click across to here, you'll see that I've got an overview button, which others may not have. So if you're a leadership user, you wouldn't have this, or a user. And this just enables me now to be able to see the overall outcomes. I can see all of the appraisals taking place across school, and then I can see just some very simple data, so I can get an idea as to what the aggregate outcome was really for that teacher. And that's really helpful over time. In the settings, so just to finish off really, a couple of things to mention. So those development areas that were pre-populated, the default ones, we can see here, we can add to those as well. We can also add our own key areas, and I would suggest that anything that you add in here is whole school. So it may be oracy, send, something that's in your school improvement plan, where you might want to add that to the list so that everybody then can assign that target as they move through that year. We can also change those statements as well as the colour schemes too, so if we want to put a little bit of a different complexion on things, we can do that. So that's the Nautilus 360. It's a very simple platform. It's very in keeping with the way that schools already do things, but it aligns really nicely with everything else that you're doing in school.